Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and a never-Trump Republican. I like breaking down the scene of alternative media and online politics, and I have a crazy show for you today. What I'm going to be breaking down is a gentleman by the name of Idubbz. He used to be like a sketch comedian, commentary guy. Commentary is another word for drama. But what happened is a few years ago, he kind of became more woke, more progressive. And I'm not necessarily saying that pejoratively, although I'm going to leave it up to you on whether or not it's a pejorative. What's happened recently is he got into a debate between two characters. Hassan Piker, who is one of the biggest political streamers in the Western world, who is pro-Palestine, and Ethan Klein, who is one of the biggest podcasters in the Western world, who is not really pro-Israel, but just doesn't want all of Israel to be slaughtered off of the face of the map. And so as a result of those two creators falling out in drama, Idubbz jumped onto the side of Hassan Piker, despite previously being friends with both. Since that time, there has been a lot of drama, a lot of online smack talking, all that kind of stuff. And Idubbz recently made a video breaking down concern trolling from his perspective. And so without further ado, I'm going to let the man begin the content on his own. I'll be pausing intermittently and breaking down his perspective from my own perspective.
Now, thankfully for me, I have the majority of this video already recorded. This is just a little addendum. I think an addendum is something that you put at the end, but this is a predendum. I'm throwing in a little predendum. Something that I've been struggling with for a long time on YouTube is concern trolling. The thing that I really struggle with is not identifying concern trolling. The difficult part of it is when there are people who have authentic concern out there and the concern trolls are concerned over the same thing. So I'm like, oh fuck, I'm giving in to the concern trolls by addressing, this segment of the population or this segment of my fan base who have genuine concerns. So I don't want to let the trolls inhibit my ability to communicate to my fans or people who are confused out there. So I want to talk about Creator Clash. I want to talk about the structure of the business and how it's changed over the years, and just sort of put to rest any of the lies that are being spread out there about Anissa, about me, and about the event.
I need to give you some more context for this. So Idubbz was, like I said, a popular drama YouTuber for many years and probably made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that. But then he stopped producing the content that made him popular. And so as a result, a lot of his audience, in their opinion, have believed that he's fallen off. That's the way that they would phrase it. Excuse me. And so he's like a fallen creator. Well, one of the things that he did, though, while he was quote unquote falling, that salvaged his reputation, was a charity boxing event. And that charity boxing event is called Creator Clash. And the first one was pretty successful. He got a bunch of semi-popular YouTube figures. They boxed each other in the ring. They raised a ton of money, made a ton of money for the event, but they also donated $1.1 million to charity. And so as a result, they had a lot of grace in the community. Now, what ended up happening, though, was with Creator Clash 2, they structured it in such a way that they just assumed success, and they didn't promote it a lot, and they weren't very aggressive. And they also had a lot of expenses. They got the Tampa Bay Lightning stadium out of Tampa. They threw galas and parties and post-event, hangouts and all that kind of stuff. And they hired a comedian and a singer and a live band and all that jazz. And what ended up happening was they went 250 grand in the hole. So what Idubbz ended up having to do was do a live stream in which he raised 400 grand, which is crazy, but good for him that he's clouded up enough in order to do that. And then not only did they make up the $250,000 shortfall from Creator Clash 2, but they ended up donating 200 grand. Now, against all advice, because you had a huge event, you had an event that crashed out and barely made enough money in order to donate anything to charity, they went for a third round of Creator Clash 3. Now, what happened was in the lineup to Creator Clash 3, Idubbz released a drama video taking Hassan's side in the drama. But what ended up happening because of that is one of the fighters, who was an H3H3 employee, so she worked for Ethan Klein, who was one of the people involved in the drama, she dropped out of the fight. So they lost a fighter 60 days before the event. And then, because of the ensuing drama was tied up in Israel-Palestine, a bunch of the other creators who were fighting like started feeling uncomfortable about it, and another fighter dropped, then another fighter dropped. And then because they had 3 fighters drop 60 days before the event, they had to postpone the event. And then when they postponed the event, another fighter dropped. And so they basically lost like half of their lineup for the charity event that had already failed previously. And then what was the other detail that was interesting about that? So they screwed up the event. And then not only did they screw up the event by involving themselves in this drama, but then they dropped out. They dropped Anissa Joma and Idubbz, who were the faces of the Creator Clash charity boxing event. They left it because their controversy was so toxic that the partial owners of the organization wanted them to leave. So they left. But effectively what they did is they just tanked the third event. So not only did they fail in the second event, not only did they have a bunch of expenses that screwed over the second event, but they screwed up the third event. And now the third event has this like reputational pall hanging around it where they don't know whether or not they're going to be able to run it successfully as a brand. So he effectively imploded a multi-million-dollar business, a multi-million-dollar charity business. Jonah Boy says, J-word, talk about counting the chickens before they hatched. Yep. He didn't. He donated nothing. If you meet his audience, is that what you mean? You're trying to say that the audience bailed him out? Sure. Hassan used Ian for sure. Yep. Hassan used this guy, Idubbz, as a shield to fight Ethan Klein. Whatever says, honestly feels like Idubbz just does what his OnlyFans girlfriend tells him. Well, that's funny. Some of the drama around that kind of says that. Don't forget about their secure their bag. Oh, yeah. For Creator Clash 3, they structured the event so they would take like 34% of the revenue from the event. And then they said like, oh, yeah, well, actually, that's going to be in this video. So I'm pre-reacting. Grassroots says he undonated. Some of those people might have donated to charity had you just not robbed them initially. That's actually a good point, Grassroots. So because everyone who donated spent money on all the galas and parties and the boxing event, that's actually like, there's probably $1 million in there somewhere that could have gone to charity, but didn't go anywhere because it was wrapped up in the parties. Aren't there people they could hire to organize these sorts of things? Yeah. And they're currently in charge of Creator Clash, the brand. Sacred Snow says, not only did Hassan use Ethan, he also discorded him to dodge the katana drama. Yeah. And I'm not going to address that just because if we do, we're going to be here all day addressing all the micro dramas. But actually, real quick, micro drama, when this guy was doing a hit piece against a Jewish creator that didn't want to see Israel get slaughtered off the face of the map, he held a katana that had a swastika on the hilt. You can say it's a manji. It's like an Eastern Buddhist symbol. It's a swastika, bro. It's a swastika. Anyways, let's go.
The main incentive for sharing this information is that I have felt extremely handcuffed by Creator Clash these past years because I'm not an expert communicator and I don't know how to convey things, not over communicate, not do all these things that potentially put the event at
He's in the wrong career field. He's a YouTuber. He should know how to not under and over communicate.
risk and put other people at risk. And that's kind of why I wanted to step away from this event. It feels like it's inhibiting my ability, like the business side of things, like inhibits my ability to communicate openly and effectively, especially when there's so many people counting on me to do that well. So it's a lot of pressure. And now that Anissa and I have stepped away from it, I want to just clear the air because I don't feel that same pressure that I did when I was part of the event. If you look into charity events, they come in so many different shapes and sizes, and there is really no format that is completely obvious for creator boxing plus charity. For the first Creator Clash, we had the business model of after everyone has been paid for the expenses of the event, all profits go to charity. That was the business model, and it was successful. Thankfully, it worked out the first year. Now, some people will be critical of one of the costs being parties for Creator Clash 2 and actually Creator Clash 1, because that's where we got the idea from. It was very successful for Creator Clash 1, or the event was successful. We don't know if the party worked to encourage people to promote the event, but that was the idea. You get a bunch of creators to show up to a fucking hotel the night before their fight.
And then I'm going to show you the swastika katana because we had somebody jokingly ask, was it red and black? No, but it was straight black. So this is the original picture. There's 4 creators who participated in the hit piece against Ethan Klein. Here's the swastika sword. And dude, you can't tell me that that's not on purpose. It's on purpose, man. It's a frickin' swastika. It's a manji, so it's going in the opposite direction of a swastika, but it's a frickin' swastika. He has a long, successful career. Right. Yeah. So you think that communications would be his thing. Now, I'll go ahead and accept this argument from him, that him saying that the parties is part of the promotion. I'll accept that. But at the same time, you have to look at ROI, return on investment. So if you're going to spend 30 grand on a stand-up comedian and 20 grand on a live band and 50 grand on the hotel rooms for everybody, so you're in the whole 100 grand, then not only do you need 100 grand in donations to make up for it, but you need an additional 100 grand to say that you're getting a good ROI, return on investment. So that's where I can accept the fact that the parties were part of like the gala atmosphere in order to promote donations and like buzz around the event. I can accept that. But if you don't ask the people that you invited and spent tens of thousands of dollars, you know, in order to get them to come to your event, if you don't ask them to in turn donate to the event, then you're kind of missing it, aren't you? So Mr. Bombastic says H3 stream yesterday was wild. Yeah, his I'm just going to share that with the chat real quick. His former boxing coach said that Idubbz and Anissa screwed over all the boxers that helped train them, where they treated them like social pariahs because they didn't have clout when they were doing the galas. And then not just that, not only did they snub the people who helped train them for the fighting, but also Anissa Joma was only excited to videotape Idubbz when he fought one specific fighter that she had a crush on. And that was the only time that she was ever enthusiastic about Idubbz fighting, was when she was crushing on one of his sparring opponents. And like, dude, if that was something that was said about me, I would just like slam my head into a brick wall until I lost like 50 IQ points and I forgot what the internet was. That is horrible. Horrible. AF says, so maybe communicate well or know how to talk to humans. I mean, that would be, you know, a skill set that you think would be involved with being a YouTuber. You made that stuff up, says making videos is different than communicating in real time. I agree. It's different skill sets, 100%. Adam Gross says nobody sees that symbol and doesn't think it looks like a swastika. Nobody is that naive. Yeah, plenty of leftists are insisting that that's not a swastika. Kyle says, actually, that's a katana from Bleach. The swastika shape is from Bankai's second release. See, already told you. And Kyle is Jewish, I'm assuming. Orksy says, hey, aren't you the guy that wants to bring back slave labor with immigration? You are getting deported to El Salvador because you are evil. Yeah, that's me. I love slave labor. You're first. Cool. All right, back to the content.
And they're going to post about it on social media, and the internet will be abuzz. And the event was successful, so we thought that that strategy of having, you know, a little hubbub, a little hullabaloo before the event and after the event was a good idea. So we ran with that strategy again, hoping that creators will post about it and be excited about it and buzz will be generated, but it didn't happen. Or maybe it did happen, but it just didn't sell tickets. I would cross that off my list as a learning experience of, well, if you do this strategy, you either gotta force people to post about it or you have to fucking, I don't know, not do it. You gotta make sure that people are slapping each other during the weigh-in. That's probably what I'd change it to, because it's cheaper, you know? It's a lot cheaper if people slap each other during the weigh-in. I just wasn't about that. I was just like, I don't want this fake drama shit. For the second creator clash, we used the same business model. This time we increased the budget, we had more fighters, we had a bigger arena, and more expenses in general. As a result of that, there were a lot more costs, and our ticket sales did not make up those costs. It seemed very obvious that this was not the way to run the charity boxing event. We told our business partners, we are not going to do this event again unless it can be promised to us that there was a way to guarantee money for charity. And the business model that was presented to us was what we're enacting, or what we did enact this year with Creator Clash 3. And that is the for-profit side of the business is unincorporated with the charity aspect. So the charity partner is its own fundraiser that we sort of like push people to, you know, before, during, and after the event. I think where some of the confusion is that many people don't understand how.
So Kyle is talking about the sword. Look up Bankai. Bankai. What, the sword? Yeah, bro. I mean, I get it. The bleach manji sword is not the same as an actual swastika. I understand that. I get it. It's not being used. That I'm going to make a joke. This sword isn't the Jew Killer 3000 in the Bleach anime. Okay, that's not the name of the sword. I understand that this isn't like a SS trooper armed with a katana. I get it. Okay, but if you look at manji symbol, this is a manji. Okay, this is the Eastern symbol. This is a swastika. You literally click flip horizontal and you have a swastika. Okay, that it's a freaking swastika, man. Okay, and in the context of it being used, they have a freaking pro-Palestinian Turkish guy who's being critical of a Jew, right? So if you want to tell me, like, yeah, the manji isn't the same as a swastika, okay, sure, I'm with you. But if you say the reason why they picked that sword and posed with it wasn't because it was in the context of criticizing a Jew, I find that I can't be I can't say it in a polite way. I find that naive to think that they didn't use it in that context. No, it's the other Aryan swastika, idiot. Nice. Sycamore says, lol, that scene in Curb Your Enthusiasm when the gay kid sews a swastika pillowcase. Yeah, that's the vibes. Adam Gross says, nobody thinks it's an actual swastika, but all our brains go, oh shit, look, that's a swastika when you see it. Yeah, Adam, that's what I'm talking about. Sycamore says, oh yeah, that was it. That would be really funny though. Joe Vasquez, the problem is the context in which it was used. Exactly. Brandon Zero says, by the way, yesterday on stream, we have a micro debate about your name on stream, Connor. How the fuck are we supposed to call you? Counterpoint? Dude, it's Counterpoints. It's written down. It's on the channel. It's called Counterpoints. My name is Connor. Holy shit. Adam Gross says, which is R-slurred to buy. Well, dude, it's okay if you buy it. Maybe just don't use it in your video hit piece against a Jew. You know what I'm saying? Conserve Liberalism says, people know the sword wasn't made for the swastika in mind. It's the fact that Hassan brought it up with that in mind. The Finnish used the swastika decades before the Nazis. They called it Hakaraisti. Yeah, there. Dude, we all know. It's just the context. It's exclusively the context. And I think what's so funny, what's so frustrating about that is for the past like 5 to 10 years, we've been told by lefties over and over again, stochastic terrorism, Tucker Carlson, Lauren Southern, Tim Pool, excuse me, they're all stochastic terroristic propagandists because they just bring up all these like crime stats and jihadist terrorism and immigrant numbers and all that kind of stuff. And they also bring up the possibility of ethno-religious civil war. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to get white people to get ginned up for a potential civil war and to commit terrorist attacks. Don't you understand? It's all stochastic. Dude, I've heard the word stochastic 10,000 times in the past decade. And then when it comes to a sword that has a frickin' swastika on it used in the context of a Jewish creator hit piece, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They're like, it's a manji. It's obviously not a swastika. It's a manji. And it's like, bro, I'm getting gaslit. Like leftists are gaslighting the shit out of people about this. And it just makes them untrustworthy. That's what it really boils down to. They're trying to win the battle instead of the war. And so as a result, they're just... I don't trust leftists. I don't trust leftists because they're either, and leftists, I mean socialists and communists. I don't trust them because they're either delusional, at which point you shouldn't trust them, or they're lying, at which point you shouldn't trust them. So that's where, for me, like go ahead and say that it's not a swastika. I'm just going to assume that you're a liar. Jonah Boy says, even watched Bleach as a kid. I thought the hilt on the Bankai looked like Nazi symbol. Yeah, exactly. In the Western context, that's a freaking swastika. It's Counterpoints. Kyle says, if he's using it in an anti-Jewish context, then yes, it's hard to believe that it wasn't intended. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. I'm not the only person getting gaslit. Sapien Green says, it was funny how Hassan just denied responsibility for the sword when he talked to Ethan. Yeah. They're just gaslighting the shit out of me. Me and only me. Conservative liberalism says, my eye twitches when somebody makes stochastic terrorism arguments. F all that noise. Well, there you go. But these are the people who are like the kings of stochastic terrorist propaganda, right? Whatever says, you have to ask, why is he holding the sword in the picture? Not accidental. Agreed. Mr. Rimbasic says, they spent the last few years calling out crypto Nazis, so of course they know the tactics very well. You would think. Kingslayer Damocles says, just remember until the H3 drama, Hassan would refer to as the swastika sword. Exactly. So they're either lying or they're delusional. Either way, they shouldn't be trusted.
Charity events operate, because to be honest, they're all very different. And with something like a charity boxing event, there's a lot of money that you have to front to put it on in the first place. And if you have an investor, you're able to do that. That investor is going to want money, they're going to want profit, but that at least gives you the initial funds to put on the event. There are other charity initiatives and events that allow people to spend money for a ticket and immediately get a product, and also their money goes to charity. Those are usually big fucking conglomerates, giant companies that can afford that cost because they're selling you other things. Some people have an idea of charity events as being like a strictly altruistic thing where everyone is just sacrificing their time and energy and money for the charity. To put on a boxing event costs a lot of money. And even in other examples like GDQ, Games Done Quick is a charity event, but they're not like a charity themselves. You know, they run a business and they partner with a charity and they fundraise for the charity. They send people to the charity, and thankfully they have, you know, multiple ways of being paid and paying the people who are running the show. That might be through payment from the charity, that might be through their own Twitch stream or merchandise. I just know that for a charity boxing event in the form of Creator Clash, there aren't too many ways to recoup your money other than ticket sales. And that was obviously the biggest challenge of the previous two events. When it does well, awesome. But when it doesn't, it's a huge problem. All
right, so hold on. God Explorer says, as a pastor of 20 some odd years, the concept of having a charity event with an investor feels anathema to good nonprofit hygiene. Probably. But I get what he's saying. And unfortunately, this is something that I bumped into in the private sector. There was a Harley Davidson. Somebody was a salesperson for Harley Davidson, and they were talking to us about the charity. So they were saying that what they can do is a charity giveaway of a bike, and the bike can cost 30 grand, 50 grand, whatever. But what they can do around it is they can actually give away the bike, and they can do $200,000 in raffle ticket sales. So they offer $50,000, but the buyers buy $200,000 worth of stuff. Well, what you can do is you can have so many administrative costs where this person is in charge of the charity event itself in totality, and this person does the marketing, and this person does the flyers, and this person buys the flyers, and this person does that, and this person does that. And so what happens is, I think the way that the tax structure is set up is that it's not criminal if only like 10% or 5% of the actual money generated goes to charity. So out of that $200,000 raised, you can donate $5,000 or $10,000. And as long as nobody calls you out on it and you don't get caught, the federal government doesn't care. And so as a result, this guy from Harley was basically saying that they were running bike raffles that were donating to charity, but they made stupid profits for the people who participated in the charity marketing campaigns because they got the goodwill of it being a charity, and they got stupid money from the raffle ticket sales, and the federal government didn't care. And most people just wanted the bike. They didn't even care about the charity. And so as a result, it was just like win, 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 win across the board, when realistically only 5% or 10% of the money ever went to a charity. Kind of skeevy, kind of skeezy, if you ask me, but you know, who cares? That's the world. Brandon Zero says, Connor, are you one of those people who can't listen to videos on 1.5? I listen to all videos at 1.25 or 1.5. I just don't do it because when I listen to Chud Logic or Queeman or Nick DiOrio, I actually find that if I listen to myself, I have to put myself at 1.25 or 1.5 because I already know half the things I'm going to say. But if I'm listening to somebody else, it's actually cool to relax at a 1.0. Kurt Lurt says, you are a maggot. Give me something more to deal with. You are vermin. Okay. What's your problem? Give me something more, Kurt Lurt. We're not saying anything. Can you do a shout out to my friend Cobson Powell? Sure. Hi, Cobson Powell. How are you? Adam Gross says, am I missing something? Why didn't iDubbbz fight out all the logistics before telling participants to train for it? Because they didn't know how much money they were going to make. Seraph702 says, must be doing better. We are getting troll migrations. No, I have a crazy tweet that got like 160,000 likes for saying how much do white American laborers cost. So all the maggots and MAGAT, they're freaking out because they're like, don't you want white American laborers to make $50 an hour? We can do that at the end of the segment. At the end of the segment, we can talk about the economics of immigration. Anyways, yeah, can the critics, because there's like two of you, there's TPDA and Kurt Lurt, can you give me something substantive to deal with? Because just like doing the insults or whatever, it's kind of lame. Like you could be like, actually, Connor, we can deport 10 million people and then the cost of labor will go up, but because the economics of the, you know, everybody will be making more money because the labor costs will go up, and then we'll be able to buy more stuff. Like, can you give me an economic explanation? You are a Magog? No, Magog is like a desert deity. I'm a human. I'm human. Anyways, let's continue. Work on your insults, guys. Work on your insults.
Remains to be seen whether the for-profit business side of the event will be successful, but the main controversy, I would say, is that it was revealed with the change of ownership that Anissa and I, because we're 1/3 ownership of Creator Clash, the business, that we were getting 34% of the profit share. We weren't anticipating this event doing well. Like, we wanted to do well enough to pay back the investors, of course. So that's one of the reasons that we were, you know, okay with the profit share thing. But another part of it as well is that the contract wasn't structured in a way that the profit share could just directly go to charity. It was told to us, like, you could just donate your portion of the profit share to charity after the event. So we were like, okay, fine. Now, I know some people will find it hard to believe that Anissa and I were just going to give our portion of the profit share to charity. There's nothing I could really say to, I think, convince them otherwise. It was up to our discretion at the end of the day. And if you don't believe us, I can't say anything that'll change your mind. I guess my only appeal is that year one, we made a bunch of money for charity, and I just got the fighters' pay like everyone else. In year two of the event, we definitely got nothing. So yeah, having said all of this, I know that there's probably a lot of you out there who honestly don't care, and you're just like, you want to see boxing, or you just want to see regular videos. I get that. For my soul, I needed to communicate it. So yeah, that's a big relief for me. I mean, I'm very happy that, you know, this year money is being raised for charity, and I'm glad to know that it's already more successful than year two. Mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned.
I responded to his personal attack with a joke, and then he hit me with a concern troll.
From the right, there's a lot of concern trolling around small businesses.
This is the...
Actually, so let's go ahead and rewind it. And let's go ahead and address the worms. Address the worms in chat. So, and by the way, your guys' insults suck. Okay? Like, you're not, you are a disgusting human being. It's like, you're not even, what am I supposed to do with that? It's not even something that I can play with. But let me go ahead and find my notifications. So this is what's going on. Let's break this down. Charlie Kirk. I ratioed the fuck out of Charlie Kirk. Wait, I was told repeatedly that Americans can't do these jobs. And there's 20. As a matter of fact, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's count it again to see if we have a good head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you have the cameraman as well. But we'll just go with 9. Okay. So the point is that roofing is hard work. Okay. Nobody is denying that. Roofing is a difficult job. It's a pain in the ass. Okay. And I'm not saying these guys aren't doing a good job. Looks like they're doing a great job. You know, they're moving a little fast. They're getting a little crazy. I would want to make sure that my nails were a little bit more nailed down than that. That he's going too fast, in my opinion, but that's okay. You got to be efficient, right? So anyways, they're doing this. Looks like they're doing a good job. Now, the thing is, yeah, exactly. Eben says moving far too fast. In my opinion, you know, I haven't done roofing myself, but I've done construction admin. Like where you shoot a nail and how deep you shoot a nail and all that kind of stuff, that can affect how you do it. So there's plenty of criticisms of different roofers and how they operate. So that's actually, you know, scary to me. So world-class roofing. So if you want to hire world-class roofing, there you go. But the point is that this white crew, and I'm not hating on them, right? Yes, I get it. I'm gay. Thanks, Wowman542. Yes, I'm a man who spends my time covering other men and their opinions on stream. Therefore, Connor is gay. Thank you, Wowman542. You own me in the marketplace of ideas. Okay. But the point is that if you have somebody who comes in from Central or South America and they're willing to do this work for $7 an hour, let's do 7 times 9 times. Let's say that this is like a 4-day job. Okay. So $7 times 8 hours a day times 4 is $224. Okay. And that's per person. And there's 9 people. And let's just double check the math real quick. 7 times 8 times 4. And bear in mind, this is all, I understand that my numbers aren't accurate. I'm just trying to get a ballpark. Okay. Times 9 laborers. That's $2,000. Now, in my opinion, if I was going to climb up onto a roof and sweat my nuts off and then also work my ass off and break my back and all that kind of stuff, I'm not doing that for less than $20 an hour, right? And realistically, I want $30, but I'm going to do 20. Like, I'll do 20 for the sake of argument, just because there's young men who might be willing to work for less than me. So let's write this down again. $7 an hour times 8 hours a day times 4 days. Bear in mind, sometimes these guys are working like 12-hour days, but still. And then times 9 is 2016. So let's just keep $2,000 in our mind. All right. Then let's say that there's white guys and they're working for $20 an hour. And this isn't a moral indictment of anybody. I'm just trying to be descriptive. So let's do $20 an hour times 8 hours per day times 4 days. That's $640 times 9 laborers, 5,760. So minus 2,000, and you've effectively doubled or tripled the labor cost. Okay. Now, if you want to say you individually want to hire North European laborers for triple the rate in order to do that, because you want them to you want them to have a good life. You want them to have a good job. You want them to do whatever. That's totally fine. I don't care. You hire white laborers. But what I'm telling you is that most people want a cheap roof, and most single family homeowners have been used to spending $20,000 on a roof. So if you're going to increase the cost of it by 30, 40% because you're increasing the labor, then what you're talking about is instead of $20,000 roofs, you're talking about $30,000 or $40,000 roofs. Okay. So if you want to spend that, go ahead. That's perfectly fine. But what I would like to do instead, I support cheap labor. Yeah, I love cheap labor. You're right. I'm a capitalist. Ooh, shocking. Shocking. The Republicans have gone communist, and the never Trump Republican is a capitalist. Ooh. Google Maps, Mexico. But who will pick the cotton? They're not picking cotton, Shadow 2 Bravo. I expected better out of you. Now, keep shit posting along your thing, but yeah, sure. Who will pick the cotton, actually? But the point is that when you have guys who are willing to labor for $7 an hour and they're willing to cut down your labor costs, it's called a seasonal visa. Thank you, Kingslayer Damocles. But what happens is not only are you reducing the costs of what's happening in construction and agriculture, but then not just that, but these dudes who are living in the United States, they're living with 2 or 3 roommates and they're sending half their money home, is guess what they do back home? They build their own houses. They make their own middle income, labor bullshit. They're able to put their kids through school. They're able to put their kids through college. And so as a result of putting their kids through college and putting their kids through school, Mexico becomes better. Central America becomes better. South America becomes better, and they stop being anarchic shitholes. So what you're doing is you're cutting off Central and South America. They're going to remain economically worse and destitute. And then what you're doing is you're increasing costs in the United States. So if you want to do that, go for it. But I think you guys are like fucking pussies, right? Number one, your insults suck. You're like, you're a bad person. And it's like, fuck off. That's not even like a good insult. And then number two, you're more economic redistributivist, authoritarian, whatever, in reference to the economy than I am. So no, go fuck yourself. I don't care. So I have a different view on world economics, and that's a moral indictment. Pound sand. Severin says, Valor Media Network, if you get a chance, I would love to hear your analysis, position, and predictions on Rojava. Really interesting project, way to the left of me, but more anarch than communist. Are you talking about the Kurds? Then sorry, hold on. I like Shadow 2 Bravo, but he says, but who will pick the cotton? Okay. This is another thing that's really annoying that I'm going to explain. So, pictures of chattel slavery. So we have chattel slavery. This is what you're talking about. So we have Africans who are kidnapped from Africa by the Kingdom of Benin. They're put into a slave ship that has a whole bunch of disease and dysentery. They die at 30% the rate. They get whipped and beaten whenever they try to escape, and they get shot if they do, try to escape as well. And then they spend 12 hours a day or 8 hours a day picking cotton, and then they live in less than subsistence, working conditions where they effectively live and sleep and eat and shit out of a shack. You're comparing that to 3 Central Americans working together in agriculture and in construction, which those white guys weren't enslaved, right? They were doing the same things that the Mexicans were doing. Then after an 8 to 12 hour day, they go hang out in an air-conditioned apartment. They pass out from exhaustion. They wake up, they do it the next day. I'm not saying they're not working their asses off. They are working their asses off. But they can go to Mexico whenever they want to. They can go to Central America whenever they want to. They can go to South America whenever they want to. They can leave whenever they want to. No one's beating Central American and South American slave laborers. Nobody's hitting them. Nobody's enslaving their children. No one's killing them with dysentery. So you comparing it to chattel slavery, I kind of find absurd. Now, there's absolutely abuses within the industry that I find repellent, but you know how I would fix that? I would fix that the way Kingslayer Damocles said, with seasonal work visas. So they get minimum wage, they get, hopefully, like medical and dental and all that kind of crap. They get like benefits, some kind of minimum benefits for work. They get workers' comp, they get injury stuff, and then we keep the prices for agriculture and construction low while also economically buoying Central and South America. Pretending this is slavery, I think is just like, it's cope. It's cope to me. It's just straight cope. And I almost guarantee you that MAGA is going to be bitching in the next year when grocery prices and construction prices go up. They're going to be like, oh, this is the aftershocks of the Biden economy. And realistically, it's like, no, you deported 5 million Central American migrants and the Central Americans have stopped working as much, so costs went up. You know what I'm saying? So sorry, this is just like straight cope. Shout out to Cobson, the Patriot. He will violate you. Okay. I'll violate him right back. Right in the butt. These replies to Connor are woke. Yeah. Severin says, if you get a chance, yeah, that was Rojava. Oh my God, it's modern day slavery. I'm totally not woke. Yeah. Way better than the rest of the region. Concerned about Turkey incursions? Sure. Cobson, Patriots in control, standing by. Dude, if you guys just keep being annoying and not engaging with the content, you're just going to get banned. You're undercutting American workers. Well, Shadow 2 Bravo, I think that American workers should be getting educated. And what I mean by that is not just four-year degrees. I also mean that they should be getting HVAC. They should be getting mechanic certifications. I basically want a GI Bill for American citizens, regardless of whether or not they do military service. So plumbing, HVAC, what's the other one? Electrician, trucking. I'm trying to think of all those industries, but there's all these industries that are blue collar, but with the certification and a little bit of training, you can make double or triple what a drywaller or a painter or a person who does gable cornice returns. You know, with a simple certification, you can do blue collar work that makes double or triple what a roofer makes, right? So what I would want Americans to do is I would want to incentivize education to the point that if they want to go into white collar work, they can go into white collar work. But if they want to go into blue collar work, then effectively their journeyman's, their apprenticeship, their whatever is subsidized by the government to the point that they get certs and then they start making triple what a roofer makes. Why don't these people just hire Americans right now? Because they want to save money. Don't you know how hard it is out there? I do, but it makes me sick over 100 feet. Sure, you're a meanie bobini coca head. Dude, that's what they're saying. It's crazy. Their insults suck. Bring back whips and chains. You guys are crazy. Oh my gosh, Democrats are the real racists for not deporting immigrant slaves who traveled 1,000 miles here. God, you guys are fucking annoying. As your local immigration hawk, I'm totally down with seasonal and other temporary visas. I'm even down with increasing legal immigration. I'm just Mr. Deport Illegals. And Kingslayer, we could split the difference on this. I would say seasonal work visas and work visas for the people who do come here in order to help out with the labor costs related to agriculture and related to the construction industry. And then it doesn't have to be permanent at all. Around 25% of construction workers are undocumented. Yep. Bo Dickerson, we're not going to have anyone around to wipe our butts. Vermont, Representative Becca Baint. Sure. Dude, if you guys want to do the let them eat cake Connor's pro-slavery comments, go for it. I don't care. It's even higher among roofers. I think it's close to 40%. Yeah, we Googled that the other day. Money is only part of it. Money doesn't care who spends it. It's whether or not it's the cartels or a mom and pop shop. Right. And I would rather Central and South American laborers who bust their ass in order to make the economy work. I would rather they have the money. Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you. Oh, I just like Americans, and I mean all Americans. Shadow 2 Bravo says, if businesses didn't have illegal workers to undercut American, the wages would be there. Yeah, okay, but Shadow 2 Bravo, you're ignoring what I said about certifications in order to get Americans jobs that pay triple what laborers get paid. Severin says, autonomous region in northern Syria, mostly Kurds. Okay, that was in reference to Rojava. Why seasonal work instead of like years-long contracts and roads to citizenship? We could do both. Fat guy with a soy beard is pro-immigration, another right victory. Woke right victory. Brother. I think he's talking about me. So let's go full screen. Here. You don't get it, chat. We work out on stream. We lift weights. I got triceps, bro. I got biceps, bro. I got forearms, bro. I might be a little chunky, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I still lift, bro. Why deport illegals to Sakkut when you can just make an inroad to citizenship for the ones? Dude, we're going to have such a huge fight in chat right now because we got like Trumper deport them all patriots mixing in with neoliberals and leftists. So I'm gonna stoke the fires of chat for like another 5 minutes and then we'll move on. Bro, they are already blaming Biden for the dips in the economy after 100% tariffs. Yeah, I know, dude. It's total cope. Grassroots says, I'm incredibly good at insulting people, only hampered by having to apologize to your mom 300 times per day. True. Gen X says, you forgot grape slaves. I'm a bit behind. Yep. Melody says, Valor Media Network, why seasonal work? I already answered that. I said we could do both. There are too many people holding CDLs. There are far too many drivers. What are you talking about? Commercial truck driving. Is there a commercial truck driver shortage? Yes, there is a commercial truck driver shortage in the United States. The American Trucking Association has been forecasting a shortage for many years, and the issue has been ongoing for at least 15 years. The ATA estimates that the industry was short approximately 80,000 drivers in 2022. The truck driver shortage costs freight industry $100 million per year. So shout out to Bravo. You might know a bunch of dumbass truck drivers who suck. I understand that. But you understand that there is an 80,000 person trucker shortage, and by 2031 it'll be 160,000 people. So you're saying we have too many truck drivers. The industry is saying the opposite. Stream buffering. Brandon Zero says, legit question, Connor, would a white American really ask like double of what a migrant can get? Hell yeah, they would. Dude, migrants will work for $7 an hour because $7 an hour will go infinitely further in Central and South America than it will here. Whereas a native is going to ask for at minimum 15 to 20 bucks an hour in order to climb onto a roof and sweat their balls off for 12 hours a day. Are you shitting me? The lack of drivers is solely pushed by large corporations. Bro, I'm literally trying to get you more drivers and you're saying, no, they're Mexican. What are you talking about, man? I'm saying Mexicans and Central Americans come in and they take the day labor jobs. We get the Native Americans, citizens. We get citizens CDLs. We get citizens journeyman certificates. We get citizens electricians stuff. We get them HVAC stuff, and we get them 4-year degrees if they want 4-year degrees. They want to study like gay underwater poetry. I don't give a shit. But the point is, you get them educated so they can make decent money. What are we talking about here, man? The stream has turned into 100 men versus a gorilla, and Connor is the gorilla. Yeah. All right, I'm catching up. Oh, no, notice how they fucking disappear. How all the fucking critics who are talking about, labor, how they fucking evaporate and have nothing serious to say the second I started addressing them. Think about that. Laugh my ass off. It's insane. They believe the opposite reality. We already have a lot of seasonal visas. Okay. Afro Jew says we only have foreigners to thank for American population decades increases, by the way. Truck driving is based, not with Starlink, should improve the quality of life a lot. This sounds dirty, but money is a lubricant. It eases the passage of my butt. Sure. Guys. Gay underwater poetry. Okay, I caught up with you guys. Yes. Bo Dickerson says, turn all Americans into the managerial class and import low-skill labor. Unironically, yes. Do you want to make $20K a year being a drywaller, or do you want to make $60K a year being construction administration? What do you want? I guarantee you, even if you say that you want to be a drywaller, you'll last for 5 to 10 years, and then you'll be trying to get into the construction admin job so you can sit your ass in the fucking air conditioning. Don't fucking hit me with this bullshit. They come in, fucking pussies. They evaporated too. The second I started addressing them, they all fucking poof. No points. Losers. Absolute losers. Fucking losers. I can't believe that. I start addressing them and they disappear and they don't have any points. That's embarrassing. Clip this. You want to come in on my quote tweet because I ratioed Charlie Kirk and I was talking about white labor versus central immigrant labor. I address all of your problems. I address all of your concerns. I talk about macroeconomics and you evaporate. Clip this. You're fucking pussies. You're pussies and you're losers. Can't even defend your own position for more than 5 minutes against somebody who's not a moron. I could do better lines of argumentation for your position than you can. That's what's embarrassing about it. That's what's embarrassing. I could make the argument, no, we just need to eat it. Central America and South America need to handle their own economic problems. The working class has been suffering under neoliberalism for the past 50 years for so long that, the truth is that the working class truly needs a break. And so if that means deporting people, it is what it is. I can make better arguments for the white labor than you can, and yet you disappear the second I start talking about it. Cowards, idiots, morons. Bro. Wow. Nothing. Cobson's gods won, by the way. You didn't do anything, Kurt. You didn't do anything. You showed up and you said nothing. You offered nothing. You're the only person left. All of your boys ran away. You got anything? Kurt, do you have anything? I just gave you a macroeconomic description of exactly how I viewed economics working in Central, South, and North America. And I told you how it's mutually beneficial to North America and Central America. I even broke bread with Kingslayer Damocles, who is an immigration hawk. All that happened is you said, lol, we won, but you didn't offer anything. Do you have anything? Do you have anything to say? Or do you actually have an 80 IQ? Because if we're talking about the great replacement, I think we should start with you if you can't offer any kind of argumentation. Come on, brother. Earn your keep. You want 20 to 30 bucks an hour. You got to be faster than that. Come on, man. You can't walk in and say, you're disgusting, my parasocial person won, and not offer any argument. What argument you got, bro? You got a keyboard. We're all waiting for you. We got 60 people. They're waiting on bated breath for your economic argument. Come on, man. You could be typing. Type away. Earn your 20 to 30 bucks an hour. You want a new American economic empire. Let's go. Nothing. You got nothing. You've had a full minute of me ranting to type out something smart, and you got nothing. You're fucking embarrassing. You're embarrassing. That's sad. That's sad, bro. I don't even feel bad. Well, hold on. I do feel bad. I do feel bad. I feel bad. I feel bad that Cobson has you as a community member. I have 60 beautiful 3,000 IQ, super smart souls on my chat. You are an embarrassment of a chatter. You're embarrassing. Run back to Cobson. Maybe he'll coddle your 50 IQ ass. But anyways. So he got 65K on being proud of seeing white people doing day labor. I got 200K on a quote tweet, which is, it is what it is. Like ratios, I don't really care about it. And notice too how I didn't say, like, yeah, Central American labor is amazing. I said, cool, what's their hourly rate? Because I'm trying to point to the increase in construction costs. And all of the comments are like, oh, you hate whites, you hate whites, you hate whites. And it's like, that's not what I said. I said, what's their hourly rate? And then he says, do we need Americans for you to afford services? Maybe. I don't know how much it costs. And then I say, how much do Americans cost? I haven't made any descriptive or prescriptive claims. I've literally asked 2 questions and all these people freak the fuck out. So anyways, 10 ply. Yeah, you're fucking 10 ply, blood. You're fucking 10 ply. So anyways, embarrassing. So anyone who wants to talk about macroeconomics, you're welcome. You're welcome into my chat. We can talk. All right. Let's continue. I'm going to mute myself so you don't have to hear me eat.
I responded to his personal attack with a joke, and then he hit me with a concern troll.
From the right, there's a lot of concern trolling around small businesses.
This is the most boring kind of concern troll.
Get Snoop Dogg and Tupac the concern troll.
Concern trolling. You need to address this issue, man, because you are offending the trans community. Shut up.
That is such poor concern trolling.
Lindsey Graham did a lot of concern trolling about this.
His concern trolling is empirically
wrong.
Oh, dude, this is like the hardest concern trolling I've ever heard in my entire life, dude.
You don't answer to the concern trolls.
Concern trolling about homeless people.
This guy's an example of a concern troll.
Concern trolling about fairness.
They sit on the sidelines and they concern troll.
It's basically concern trolling.
There's a lot of people do concern troll.
Concern trolling.
As concern trolling.
Concern trolls.
Concern troll. Concern trolling.
Concern trolling.
Concern trolling.
Quintessential concern troll.
That was some expert concern trolling.
Yes.
I've been working on my laugh lately. I'm trying to get it to a level where it's contagious. I haven't figured it out. I'll let you guys know when I figure it out. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of iDubbbz Complains. In the last couple of videos, I got a lot of comments. Now I don't have time to read all 150,000 comments, but I also don't want to let down my audience, you know? I want them to know that I hear you. I hear your concerns and I'm listening. I've put all 150,000 comments into the AI and I told it to condense it down into a singular comment that is representative of the whole. My hope is that the one comment will perfectly represent a small fragment of everyone in the audience so everyone is equally happy. Okay, hold on a sec.
I'm eating, so I'm muting myself so you don't have to hear my disgusting mouth noises. But listen, I'm going to share this because I kind of went hard on the people who were coming into chat. If you're an economic protectionist, if you think that targeted tariffs can be good for an economy, if you think that American laborers do need better protections, better wages, better benefits, et cetera, in order to create a more vibrant economy, if you think that immigration needs to be controlled strictly, I don't care. We could probably even break bread on a healthy chunk of that where we could find some kind of centrist position in order to make sure that we control agricultural costs through labor subsidization, through immigration and also construction costs, but then also make sure that the Americans work here have a dignified wage. We can find that level of like nuance and like good policy that's good for laborers as well as it's good for the country. I'm perfectly fine doing that. But if you're going to say, well, I'm just down to pay whatever costs it costs in order to get an American to do it, you might implode the economy, right? So when it comes to like agricultural costs, it's massively subsidized by immigrant labor. When you're talking about construction, it's massively subsidized by immigrant labor. So if you click your fingers as a genie and you make all that labor disappear, obviously costs are going to go up. So my point isn't so far as you can say that you just want that. You just don't care about costs. You just want domestic workers. And I'll say, okay, we disagree, but it's, you know, no skin off of my ass. I'm not an immigrant, right? But at the same time, just, you know, actually have the conversation, right? Because you're not going to be able to control costs in agriculture and construction and eliminate immigrant labor. It's just not going to happen. So don't tell me that in an idealized world, everybody makes $100 an hour and we also have cheap services and cheap goods. It's not a thing. Jack Darko says, I don't know who Cobson is, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Yeah, we got like 6 of them. We got 6 Cobson D riders, and I don't know who Cobson is. So, you know, good luck to you, Cobson. Kesoko says, Connor, don't pander to these trolls. They have no intention to stick around and break bread. Yeah, sure. I'm not trying to pander them. I'm just saying that like we have, you know, 60 giga IQ, 3000 IQ Chads in chat right now. And so as a result, I'm just saying with the Chads, if you disagree with me on economics, that's fine. But we actually just need to talk about the economics and what you're prepared to suffer in order to realize your economic vision. That's all I'm saying. So you don't have to agree with me 100% on my American empire, unified Western hegemony idea. You don't have to agree with me on that, but that's just my perspective. So if you have a different perspective, we can talk about it, but talk about it. He can suck on my Knobson. Yeah, exactly. Cobson can suck on my Knobson. Kyle says, under their protectionist model, how are they going to get an unwilling population to go along without state violence? State violence. They would say good pay, but I doubt they're willing to pay for good pay. I Googled Cobson and QAnon and couldn't find anything. Must be a subcult. Good for them. How about being a dignified person? Well, I mean, I agree. I don't know if you're talking about labor right now or me being very rude to people. I don't know what you're talking about, Grassroots. But what I'll say is, I think even right, even Central and South Americans are entitled to a level of dignity. Now, if they're willing to have 3 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment and they're willing to work for $7 an hour, because to them, it's like an offshore oil rig job, right? I don't know if you guys have ever bumped into these opportunities, but you can make 60 grand, 50 grand in a quarter. You can make 60 grand in 3 months. But the way that you do that is you're willing to work with your hands, you're willing to get roughed up, you're willing to get injured, and you're willing to spend 3 months offshore, right? So you go to Texas, you join a roughneck crew, you fly out via helicopter to an oil rig, and then you work there for 3 months and you make $60K in 3 months. Now it's backbreaking labor. It's hard as hell, but you can make a shitload of money. And then when you make a shitload of money, you can buy a motorcycle, or you can buy a Corvette, or you can buy a house, or you can buy your girlfriend. You know, you can make shitloads of money being an oil worker. And so the oil workers are kind of like seasonal workers in that they spend 90 days offshore, but then they make a shitload of money. And so that's kind of the same way that immigrant labor, and you're like, well, immigrant labor, they only make $7 an hour. It's not that much. $7 an hour isn't a lot of money here, but in the Dominican Republic, as an example, a Coca-Cola cost 6 cents. Okay? It costs 6 American cents. So if you scale the economy down to the costs, now you can't get all of the luxury goods that you want, but you can get meals for really cheap. You can get a house for really cheap. You can rent properties for really cheap. So if you live in Central and South America, your dollar goes infinitely further. So if you have these Central American migrants who are willing to come here as if it was an oil rig job, and then they're making only $7 an hour, but they're able to live off of half of that because they have roommates and they eat on the cheap, but then they're able to send all that money home, then their families back home are doing super good. So it's a mutually beneficial economic relationship. That's why I don't get what these guys are saying. It's very frustrating. Excuse me. Grassroots says, I work 110 hours a week, but it seems sunny. Well, if you love your job, then awesome. K-Soko says, when I was younger, I almost took a job on a stone ferry on Lake Erie. Pay would have been amazing. I chose an easier career. Yeah, me too. Me too. I could have been a roughneck. Dude, they had a program specifically for military veterans in order to become oil rig workers. And I strongly considered it because it seemed like exciting and cool work. But I wanted to get my 4-year degree, and I wanted to drink and hang out with girls, you know? I had just gotten back from a deployment, and I'd been with like 1,000 men for 7 months with 10 females. I wasn't ready to do that again. Sarah702 says, I had an army buddy with a Derrick in North Dakota, offered 100K for 6 months, 80K for 4 months. These guys listening to our convo offered. He flew them out and hired them for 6 months. Yep. Whatever says, how do you stop your seasonal workers from becoming illegal immigrants, Connor? Strong border controls. Dashing Rogue says, the big thing that no one wants to talk about is when it comes to laborers and automation. I think we might have an agricultural revolution beforehand. They will make all laborers obsolete. We'll see. We might need to actually like space mine in order to get enough rare earth minerals and metals in order to manufacture a slave population of robots, which would be dope, because if robots don't give a shit about what they do all day, then they could just labor in perpetuity, and then boom, we all become a leisure class. Wow Man says, I wish more pundits just highlighted American companies and vote with their wallets over cheap Amazon stuff like Hawkins Leather Company wallets. Very based of you to say. Infinitely further? Okay, maybe not infinite, but a lot further. All right. Anyways, but the point is that I just wanted to say that these people, they're not here for the hard arguments. And if they were, I would respect them more. Heartbender says, dude, who the fudge works 110 hours a week? Get fucking real. I was doing 80-hour weeks and I was dying. Well, Grassroots Hegemon, who makes a shitload of cash. So I think he probably enjoys his work on some level, or else he wouldn't work that much. Lol, 1,000 men and 10 women. Man, you were a busy, busy boy. Fuck you, K-Soko. Oh, 1,000 men in one day. Come on. You guys are rude. These people. What do you mean, these people? Please, future robot makers, don't make them so smart they demand to be free from slavery. True. All right. Anyways, you guys are being super rude. You're calling me a gay prostitute, and this is my chat. What the hell? But anyways, we got 73 people. I parasocially love each and every single one of you. You all have 3,000 IQ and perfect taste in content. Thank you for choosing to spend some of your day with us. Please remember to like the stream, enjoy the content, all that kind of stuff. Also, these VODs, we're currently demonetized, but we're working on that. It's basically an admin thing on the back end. So we should have that fixed for you in the next couple of weeks. So you can give super chats and memberships and all that kind of stuff. If, however, you want to catch the VODs, like you got to dip out for lunch, dip out, take care of your family, all that kind of stuff, then go ahead and go over to Counterpoints, type in Counterpoints Politics into your search bar. You'll pull up my VOD channel, and you'll be able to catch these as post-recorded VODs. So, yes.
So I'm kind of lost. Who's
AF brings up, this is an important port. We're good looking too. You guys are also, not only do you have 3,000 IQ, you're also good looking.
Hassan again? But hey, it's cool to see a content cop after all these years. Still, I gotta say, something feels different, man. Did we lose the plot somewhere? I miss the old days, but whatever. Keep doing you, I guess. Anyway, peace out. I'm gonna go rewatch some Filthy Frank now. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a big fan of the one comment because I feel like it perfectly encapsulates a comment from like a normie viewer who maybe watched you 5 years ago, but you know, they don't keep up with the drama or anything. When I first started my research on concern trolling, I was trying to find scholars on the topic. I know it hasn't been around for that long, but I'm like, surely there's someone who is well versed in the art of the troll.
He's mastered that art of trolling.
To my surprise, the scholar on this topic is Anita Sarkeesian. Yeah, it's been almost a decade since like the Gamergate time, and go figure, the white guy 8 years later is like, I think Anita Sarkeesian was kind of onto something. There's a lot of assholes on the internet, and they're kind of misogynistic too, I think. It's crazy what a little CTE or the love of a woman will do to you.
Unfortunately, that's not the only species of concern troll out there.
The most obvious definition for concern trolling is when someone is pretending to be concerned about a particular subject or cause, when in reality, they don't give a fuck. They're just doing it to either get attention, start a fight, derail a conversation. To be honest, it's very effective, because back in the day, you could identify someone trolling pretty easily, and you can kind of scroll past it. They'd have a name like Shit is Fuckus, and they would say fake and gay. But nowadays, it feels like the average troll is going to give you a paragraph or two, and you will not be able to identify.
I'm not going to lie. Seeing, I'm going to use bad words, but seeing Shit is Fuckus saying fake and gay, it was almost like nostalgia. I got hit with nostalgia from the old internet. It was great. Wowman542 says, bro, are we trapped in 2016 timeline? Gamergate, Trump, and Anita Sarkeesian are back again? Yeah, because Idubbz took a decade in order to catch up on this concept of concern trolling.
Identify straight away if someone is fucking with you or not. Do they hate me? Are they making a point here? Should I rethink my behavior? What the fuck? It seems like they'll oftentimes give you their fan resume to like prove that they're not just some random hater, right? They're not a troll or a hater. They're a fan who's been supporting you since the Kickstarter crap era. They've been supporting you since you made a NFT of your ball sack. I've been subscribed since the Overgrowth Let's Plays. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more Overgrowth. Just want to say that this video really missed the mark. Hope that you can do better. Hope that you can do better is such a great thing to say. It's like, you're a piece of shit. Part of the reason I want to share this is...
Which is funny because, so this is a context that was brought up by Nicholas DiOrio and some other drama and commentary people, is that that's what he did to Ethan Klein. His entire video was like, I hope you can do better. So him doing that and realizing it, his previous video essay taking down Ethan Klein was effectively an hour-long concern troll. Eben says, Idubbz legit might be the dumbest person to be around on Earth for a long time. Listen, man, this is why I'm supremely confident in our long-term ability to create content, is because some of the most successful people on the internet are wildly stupid and uninsightful. It's actually amazing. Grassroots will say, I will tell you, I make what I make because I never sleep. There you go. Raymond says, I'm bi. Love you all partisan. Cool. Chase says, this feels like a manic defense video. Brother read some criticisms that set him off. Actually, that's the point that I wanted to address, Chase. So for me, I deal with comments all the time. Comments on the politics stuff tend to be more passionate than the Warhammer stuff. But even with the Warhammer stuff, lots of people are super passionate about Warhammer stuff. And so they'll leave me like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. And so if it's something that I feel is like said that I have like feedback on that I like a lot, then I'll give them like a paragraph of feedback because I want them to know that their comment was seen and appreciated. If, however, it's something that's concern trolly or it's just concerned in general, it's like, Sweaty, can you please, hold on, did I lose the internet?
Because I know.
Yeah, so if it's like, Sweaty, can you please make your react box a little bit smaller? It's making me not able to see all the action, and I don't want to see your giant forehead. If I get something like that, then I just type in like N-O period, enter. Because I'm not going to waste energy arguing with you about copyright, react videos, any of that kind of stuff. And on top of that, it's my channel. I'm going to do what I want. So basically, like, and then in reference to politics, some people will have like really long drawn out arguments that some of them are good and worth engaging, but also with some of them, you can just tell it's like a schizo post and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So anyways, what I'm basically recommending to you is that if you want a creator to engage with you in the comment section, number one, 90% of creators don't even engage with their comment section for their own mental health. But number two, keep it short. Keep it punchy, keep it to the point, and then also use empathy, which is a skill that we should have all learned by the time that we're 30, in order to understand what will piss off a creator versus what would actually be feedback that they might consider. You know, it's not hard if you don't have autism. Excuse me. Melody says, well, was more than 95% of the video was pooping on Ethan and the last 5% was saying he can do better because the therapist didn't agree with him, lol. Well, Melody, you might be right there. But I think it was a setup for a concerned troll, even if he didn't even think it was a concerned troll. GRT says, prodigious forehead, gang, unite. True. Whenever 4690 says, the more Idubbz speaks, the more I dislike him. Maybe I should throw his girlfriend a few dollars. Rude. For those of you who don't know, his Anissa Joma, Idubbz's wife, does OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? Does white labor equal native labor? No. We got native Hispanics. We got native Asians. We got native black folk. 9 says, spoilers, he made this video because someone joined his Discord and server and criticized him, which is funny because that's the title of the segment. Valor Media, not gonna lie, we need a Giga Chat emote for moments like that. True. I need to get you guys some emotes so you can spam them whenever we get raided by Knobson Cobson. Yeah, his wife is a garden tool. Indeed. 5 heads, we don't dream, we IMAX. True. Native labor versus foreign labor. When I'm talking about that, I'm almost exclusively talking about like citizen versus immigrant labor. That's what I mean by that. Spatula emote. True. Anyways, let us continue.
know there are a lot of creators out there who have to deal with this on a regular basis. They have to be the ones to differentiate between authentic and inauthentic. And a lot of the time you just gotta fucking flip a coin or just ignore it outright. And it's really easy to say, like, I would handle that really well because my policy is to not give a shit about any of it. But obviously, if you do want to have some sort of relationship with your audience or the internet in general, you do have to give some percentage of attention to what's being said online. That's going to be different for everyone. Now, some people might be worried that I'm giving new strategies to all the trolls out there, but don't worry, they already know these strategies. This is kind of like I think this is in all of us, right? Like, if you want some attention, you're going to figure out a way to get the attention. If you want to fuck with people, you'll figure out how to fuck with people. This isn't like some secret sauce, really. There's a few different strategies of dealing with concerned trolls. You can obviously, you know, try to look into into their post history, and if they don't come across as credible, if all their post history is wiped, then you can just say, I'm gonna err on the side of you're trolling me. When I listen to Tim Pool, he has like a little bit of a theory on, you know, the left versus right and who is doing more concern trolling.
The right has their concern trolls, but it's rare. It rarely happens. On the left, it's endless because people like Patton Oswalt don't care about principle.
Now, I don't fully buy into what Tim Pool is selling here. You can kind of look at the political spectrum as like a spectrum of concern, and people on the left seem to be generally more concerned than people on the right. You can say that people on the right are mostly concerned about themselves. That might be like a fair assessment. If you're somewhere over here where Tim Pool's at, all you gotta do to concern troll him is take one step to the left. That's it. I think concern trolling is an
Hold on. I actually think this is an okay analysis. And Idubbz, again, I think we're kind of realizing he's not as smart as people thought he was back in his drama days. But I do think that this is real. So if you guys have ever seen, there's a heat map, conservative empathy heat map. And what it basically says is that conservatives, and it's like a temperamental, it could even be like a hormonal thing, but conservatives have it's kind of like JD Vance's logos of amorous or whatever, or ordo amorous, which is like the order of love. And what it effectively says is start with yourself, then work with your family, then your community, and then you can branch out to the stranger and all that kind of stuff. Whereas liberals and progressives, they will sympathize and empathize with like rocks and trees and animals and shit. And so it's a psychological heat map that's popular on the internet. Yeah, no, not logos amorous, ordo amorous. I was just speaking Latin for no reason. But the point is that if we take this information, that conservatives are more empathetic the closer you get to them, and then liberals and progressives are empathetic across the board, and then we take this kind of thing, then liberals and progressives are very often very concerned with like fairness and social order and all that kind of stuff. Whereas conservatives will be like, you know, get wrecked, idiot. You know, that they'll basically say like, well, if you're not a part of my tribe, then I don't care about you. As a matter of fact, it's funny in reference to the labor conversation. That's kind of how it is, because I was saying that I also care, you know, on the left wing side, let's just say, I care about immigrant labor from Central and South America. And they were saying, lol, who cares? I only care about Americans, right? So that's actually like a fairly interesting analog to this analysis. Now, I think the reason why that Idubbz is not quite articulating, but he's almost articulating, is that the left is not concerned trolling. They are genuinely concerned. Whereas the right wing is concerned trolling because they're pretending to be further left than they are in order to get the left to freak out about stuff that the right wing doesn't care about at all. So, reading chat. Silver Jacket says, the funniest thing is the comments on this video are 100% concern trolling intentionally. There you go. K-Soko says, do you have a moment to talk about the 5 spices of girlhotism? Based. Chase, yeah, the leftists typically pretend to care about issues for points more than the right. Are they pretending, though? Because some of them genuinely do care, and that makes them almost more annoying. Yeah, it's not logos amorous, it's ordo amorous, O-R-D-O, the order of love. Wait, somebody think of the rocks? Won't somebody think of the rocks? Yeah, that's me. I love me some rocks. Dashing Rogue says ordo amorous and logos is Greek. Oh, good point. Okay, good point. That's what I get for using complex words. Silver Jacket Man says, I legit sympathize with the tree once. I was a whole bunch of hallucinogens at the time, and the tree looked like it had a sad face. Well, I mean, I don't blame you, man. Like trees do feel, plants do feel, plants can have stress. Now, is it as complex as a rabbit or a human or a wolf or whatever? Absolutely not. But is it still a living being that is capable of dealing with like stress of dehydration and soil richness and, you know, the wind and heat and pressure and all that kind of stuff? And weirdly enough, if you think about it for more than 30 seconds, trees do feel something akin to pain, something akin to dehydration, something akin to richness in the soil, like food, that like hunger almost. and then they also do experience death. So in a lot of ways, we kind of think of trees as like living and yet inanimate objects, but they're actually more complex than we give them credit for. So vegans are wrong in a way. Yeah, plants do, they don't like being eaten, you know. If they had the ability to articulate preference, they probably would not like being eaten. What's interesting though about fruit is when it comes to fruit, I think it serves a dual purpose. Fruit is the energy sac that's put around seeds. And so with a tree, if it drops a fruit, what it's trying to do is it's trying to drop an energy sac amongst the seeds so the seeds can grow in the ground. But it already knows that 99% of the seeds and fruit that it produces are not going to yield more trees. So it's kind of just like throwing it out there and then seeing what happens. But what's interesting about fruit is that it has like a dual purpose where not only is it an energy sac in order to provide energy for the seeds, but it also incentivizes propagation where animals come and pillage the energy sacs, which is what fruit effectively is. It's all sucrose, it's all energy. And then as a result of that pillaging of the energy, it spreads the seeds. And if they accidentally ingest the seeds or ingest the seeds on purpose and then they poop the seeds, then the seed is still in the energy, like an energy sac. And so what's interesting about that is that fruit is actually a way that you can get food from a plant without killing or harming the plant. I think that's so cool. I think it's so cool that there's like natural ways to get food that don't involve harming an original living creature. I still eat meat, by the way. I'm saying all this and I eat meat, but I still try to have like a minimum amount of harm to living creatures as maximally as possible. Cameron Mosley says, Connor, don't look at this map. Look at the stuff about the tacos video on it. No, don't get too distracted. We're already too distracted. Biz D says, you're getting dangerously close to summoning vegan gains. I know. He's like Beetlejuice, right? Eben says, fruit is perfect, not living and perfectly ethical. Exactly. I don't like being eaten. Makes itself delicious. Bo Dickerson, that's what I feel like cows are. Is like, please don't eat me. I just taste really good, though. Right. Conservative liberalism mentions that there are certain fruit that seem to be designed to be consumed. Exactly. Wowman542 says, I'm sure trees and plants feel stuff. I just care more for other humans. Of course, you should care more about more complex creatures. Cameron Mosley says, Dev, short fatted tacos videos on the heat map. Sweet. Some plants do have self-defense mechanisms to prevent getting eaten. Yeah, like thorns or like poison ivy and poison oak or smell bad. Yeah, 100%. My energy sac has 2 big seeds in it. Unironically, bro. Unironically. All right. Did you know that most plants are poisonous, but we built up an immunity? I did not know that. But anyways, let's get back to the content. But the point is that as dumb as Idubbz is, he's pointing to something real, which is effectively that the right wing is more capable of concern trolling because we don't care as much. Whereas with the left, they often do substantively care. Now, I think that this does map onto some cannibalization, though, where lefties will be so concerned with the purity of the intentions and ideology and its adherents that they won't do anything or get anywhere because they're empathetic to the point that they're not productive. And that's actually going to line up with the Destiny content we watch in a bit.
Control him is take one step to the left. That's it. I think concern trolling is in the eye of the beholder.
Sorry, this is an important question. Melody says, Connor, would you sustain yourself off of lab-grown meat if it was equal to regular meat? I unironically am a massive advocate for lab-grown meat, where I would be a part of the first generation of lab meat consumers, 100%, because I'm already almost 40. I'll be 40 in a couple of years. And what's going on is whatever I'm doing right now is going to give me the cancer that I'm going to get in my 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? So if there needed to be a lab-grown meat generation that consumed lab meat in order to see if you got more cancer than the average person in your 70s or 80s, I would 100% be like the monkey astronaut of lab-grown meat, and I would consume lab-grown meat the way that I consume meat right now, and then just let myself be a control in a lab-grown meat study for cancer. 100%. I love lab grown meat as a concept. If we could get chicken and cow and fish, I don't care about fish as much, but if we could get chicken, cow, and fish cuts of meat that were as tasty, that didn't give you super cancer, I think that's like the coolest technology that human beings would have ever come up with. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. If I keep engaging with chat, I'm never going to get through the content. So let's get through the content.
This example, you have Tim Pool thinking that Patton Oswalt is being concern trolled by his audience, or a portion, maybe like a small segment of people.
This is what happens when you fall for this stuff. Patton Oswalt falls for it. He is a weak man.
But Patton Oswalt doesn't feel that way. You know, he sees it as authentic concern, which is why he addresses it in this Instagram post. By the way, the concern is basically...
No, Wowman542, you misunderstand me. He says, bro, how can you not care for fish? Grilled salmon goes hard. No, I love salmon. I'm saying I don't care. Maybe I'm just being racist against fish. I see the way that fish live, and I don't think that they're incredibly biologically complex creatures with a massive emotional intelligence. To me, fish, while being alive and capable of suffering, they don't seem that emotionally complex to me. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Just people were uncomfortable with his association with Dave Chappelle because Dave Chappelle did some transphobic or said some transphobic shit. But Tim Pool has such a fucking low emotional IQ that he doesn't realize it isn't a big deal to listen to what other people are saying and like adjust your behavior. It's all up to our own fucking discretion, right? Like if you aren't to the point, Tim, where, you know, you don't want to apologize for fucking anything, which by the way, it seems like that's a theme on your podcast, is basically saying like, I'm not a problem. But acting like that's the way the rest of the world needs to operate, it's like, I think Patton Oswalt is doing just fine operating the way he's operating.
Wallow in it. Okay, Patton Oswalt? Never tell an offensive joke again. Never cross the line again. Good luck trying to figure out where that line is. Good luck. You won't find it. You give in to the concern trolls and you will never work again.
It's so fucking funny, too, because Patton Oswalt has been doing comedy since Tim Pool was in fucking diapers. What the fuck are we talking about? Can we please, like, I don't know. It feels like people like Tim Pool love to appeal to, like, authority all the time. In this scenario, can we please appeal to authority or acknowledge that this guy has tremendous authority over you in the world of comedy?
Unless you think comedy is saying, like, I went to a Jewish bakery the other day. They had bagels. Really good, really impressed with it. That's the comedy you're headed for. That's the joke South Park made. And even South Park has started pulling its punches. Let me tell you about the real world, my friends. Get woke, go broke.
One of the reasons that
That phrase is so cringe, by the way. And it's not because there isn't something to be said for annoyingly progressive media that shoots itself in the foot. However, it's overused to the point that it's used for like black people being in video games. And I just don't give a shit. AF does something really funny that almost made me spit into my bike. He said, I don't drink water, fish F in it. And that's a reference, correct me if I'm wrong, to the TV show Archer, where they have this entire thing where the butler for Archer, who's like an American James Bond, his butler that he mistreats horribly is actually a World War I veteran who fell in love and had like a homosexual crush on one of his battle buddies, and his battle buddy gets like shot down over the what would you call it, the dead man zone, the no man zone, I forget what you call it in World War I, with the area between two trench lines, but he gets shot down in it. And so the butler, before he's a butler, runs out into no man's land, no man's zone, something like that. And then the guy's last words, because he gets shot by a sniper, is, I never drink water, fish F in it. It was horrifying, but excellently executed comedy. Sacred Snow says, to be fair, if the salmon don't get skinned by a grizzly, they turn into zombie fish. Yeah, dude, like dying in nature sucks. Like being a deer and trying to die of old age, even if you die in old age, you better hope that you're dead before like some horrible predator finds you and consumes you while you just like kind of lay there half sick, or like a vulture, like what do they call those, the carrion, the carrion vultures. You better hope a carrion creature doesn't find you before you actually die. You better hope your heart stops. before you actually get consumed by one of those creatures, dude. Yeah, dying in nature is actually horrifying. We're lucky that we get to die. Heart attacks are terrifying. Strokes are terrifying. Cancer is terrifying. But we're lucky we get to die from that instead of we just run around in nature until a predator or a carrion creature consumes us, because that's what deer do. That's what fish do. Marfin says Tim Pool does not respect authority figures on a topic. Huge misstep by Ethan. Yeah, I didn't understand that appeal. Andrea Shirkov says, hey, everyone, first time catching alive. Well, welcome aboard, and I'm sorry if I offend you. I'll put it that way. Welcome to the 75 people that we have on the stream, by the way. Like the stream if you haven't liked it already, and I'll chill for you to do donos when we get remonetized. Dashing Rogue says, Patton Oswalt was kicking it in with the woke right Satanists back in the 1990s. True. Harmonic Fox says, what if I watched Tim Pool to see him get obliterated by facts and logic? That's a good way to spend your time. Then a carrion feeder is what you said, or detrivores, Marfin42 says. Yeah. Conan the Barbarian? No, okay, cool. All right, anyways. No, there's a class of creature that eats, like, carrion definition, the decaying flesh of dead animals. And then what kind of diet do vultures have? Feed almost exclusively on carrion, which is the carcass of dead animals. And so there's a food for this. There's a word for this that I forget. It's very specific, but it refers to like hyenas and vultures and other like predators of opportunity, where they don't necessarily hunt and bring down their prey. They wait for their prey to die and then they take advantage. I forget what it's called, but there's another word for it.
I'm bringing this up is because after the content cop, I noticed.
Thank you. Jack Darko got it. Scavengers. Yep. K scavengers. Yep. You guys got it. Thank you. You nailed it. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't find it.
Huge influx of concern trolls. They're trying to impact things in the real world. They're trying to, make people crash out, as I was kind of indicating in my video. But I will say, one of the concern trolls.
Hold on, we have to let we have to acknowledge what Seraph said. Lol, if I get cancer, I can walk into a ranger battalion and call them a bunch of pogues. My passing will be quick and ultimate. Imagine dying like a Spartan on Reach. If you guys ever played Halo Reach, like all the Spartans die there by like fighting like a dozen bad guys, and that's how you go down, is like the Halo Reach final fight where you're killing like a bunch of elites, but it's actually just like ranger bat boys that you're knocking out as they're trying to kill you. That'll get you into Valhalla for sure.
Was super fucking obvious to me. They came into the Discord. I'll read you what they put so you can kind of get a vibe for what a concerned troll might sound like. Now, this comment is in reference to me saying,
Miles Otwell, you might want to get checked. Sorry for interrupting so much, but Miles Otwell says, I quit eating meat recently only because I just woke up repulsed by eating meat. One day eating cheeseburgers and the next, no way. Miles, you might want to check and see if you got bit by a tick. I don't know if you've been out in the wilds or camping recently, but there is a tick that can bite you, and part of the symptoms are an aversion to meat. So you might actually want to ask your doctor about that. Now, if it's just like a dietary preference, my wife was vegetarian for a very long time because she actually does have an aversion to meat. And then she had her second child, and then boom, something clicked where now she's just like a partial carnist. So I'm not saying it's anything serious, but you just might want to ask about it. And it's a quote from W.C. Fields. Who's W.C. Fields? American actor and comedian. I'm assuming gastric hemorrhage. Poor bastard. He bled from his stomach. But I guess he's a famous actor and presumably an alcoholic. Well, good for him. Good for him, I guess.
That I think he needs a good ass whooping. What are we saying? He needs a hug? No, he doesn't need a hug. He needs a good fucking ass whooping is what he needs. They say, just being for real, this line in the video was pretty strange. Red flag number 1. At worst, it's a call for physical assault. At best, it's very toxic masculinity-esque. It just comes across as parody, right? This was literally no one's concern ever. He needs a good fucking ass whooping is what he needs. Either way, it doesn't seem to align with Ian's mentality towards being more progressive and against harassment. You see what I mean? It's trying to like insert like a little seed of doubt. Whoa, you might have been irresponsible here. You might need to take accountability for what you've put out on the internet. Never mind the point that you were making in the video. I think you need to repent for your call to violence. I don't think any creator should make that kind of statement unless they have a very good reason.
So hold on, we're actually getting into the meat of the conversation, but chat, as always, is being more interesting than the content we're consuming. Jack Darko says, have you seen the voice actor from Archer, H. John Benjamin, calling into the Majority Report? Apparently he and Sam are friends. Dude, it goes deeper than that. Bob's Burgers. H. John Benjamin plays the Bob, right? And then Sam Cedar, Bob's Burgers, he does the food inspector. So I forget what this guy's name is, but well, apparently he does a few. So he does a couple of grandpas and he does the food inspector. I forget his name, but it's a really classic name for a food inspector. Hugo. Sam Cedar is Hugo. But anyways, so I'm going to let you guys get through the reveal, but I don't think any creator should make that kind of statement unless they have a very good reason to do so, morally speaking, because you never know what one of your fans might do. It's quite dangerous, so you would have to point to me exactly what Ethan did to warrant a statement that could be perceived as a call to violence. So let's check this out.
Reason to do so, morally speaking, because you never know what one of your fans might do. It's quite dangerous. I mean, to someone who hasn't been through the ringer of concern trolling, I'm sure this could, like, upset or confuse someone, but this is just fucking drivel. I honest to God just think his vid and the whole intention would have been better without that in it. I don't see why he said that. Ugh. Of course, this is a new user to our Discord, so no post history. So we gotta get creative. You reverse search the username, and you find that they have a Twitter. Their Twitter is suspended. The Blue Sky account, though, has tweets like, so how long until Destiny gets banned from this app? Hashtag DGG, hashtag Dalaban, hashtag Destiny. Tankies are already terrified of arriving Dalaban forces. Following back all liberals, hashtag DGG. Now, the reason that these posts are relevant.
Okay, so Bud123, I'm wondering if you're concern trolling me by asking this question. So concern trolling, because this video could have been 5 minutes long instead of 30 minutes long. Although I just turned it into an hour's worth of content, so I guess that's my fault. But anyways, the point is that concern trolling is pretending to care about something that you don't care about in order to get somebody to police their behavior. So what ended up happening was DGG concern trolled in iDubbbz's video saying like, oh, why did you say that you might hit Ethan? He needs an ass whooping. Isn't that scary? Meanwhile, they're a fan of Destiny. And let's just say that Destiny has some spicy comments, okay? Destiny can say some spicy things.
Is because Destiny is quite famous for saying very unhinged, offensive shit, and he doesn't really seem to care that much about it.
Don't pretend like you care about mental health or any of that cringe shit. Just be based. Tell people to kill themselves. Make fun of people who are on SSRIs. Make fun of people who have depression or anxiety or GD. Just do that. Just embrace the I can't say the words on stream anymore. All the slurs and everything you used to. Just do that. Go full in on it.
Now I'm gonna
based. So like the reason why, part of the reason why I watch this, okay, and sorry if I lose a few of you, especially the Valor people, okay, is listen, is that good behavior? Obviously not. Is that what we should expect out of adults? Obviously not. But I think people just need to be honest, man. They just need to be honest, okay? So if somebody's annoying you, you can tell them to buzz off. If somebody's being annoying, you can tell them some rude stuff, you know? Like that's all we're really saying at the end of the day, right? So that's where I think the reason why concern trolling is so weak and so hated, and part of the reason why I wanted to watch this content in the first place, is because I would rather you just insult me than you say, sweaty. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would rather you just say something bad about me, right? And I think at the end of the day, Most of us would. Okay. Most of us would. Bud123 says, honest question. I don't know the definition. Yeah, it's actually just pretending to care about something in order to police the behavior of somebody else, but you don't actually care about the thing that you're policing their behavior on. Machiavellian gaslighting. Yeah, kind of. Is this the biggest one guy? It kind of is, because he created a 23-minute video off of one person in Discord saying like, sweaty, I wouldn't say that Ethan Klein deserves to get fought. You know, pretty funny. Cameron Mosley says Noble Six's last battle against the Covenant is the most gangster masculine thing ever. Yeah. And Emil, the Spartan with the skull carved onto his helmet, he went down fighting too. It was awesome. Whatever 4690 says, heard Blue Sky was destroying itself from purity spiraling. Not surprised. Commander Haircut says the best clip of Sam Cedar is him trolling the scam caller by giving them H. John Benjamin's information. Based. GRT says that sounds out of context. The tone seems to like he's trying to make a point about dishonest communication styles. Yeah, that's probably it. Way too based. Base and SSRI pilled. True. And then Bud123 says Connor, the silverback centrist grill hottest. I mean, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But I'm going to show real quick since we're at the almost towards the end of the video. Don't worry, we got plenty more content coming our way. I'm just talking about this segment. So like the stream if you haven't liked it. We've actually broken 80 a couple of times on Valor Media Network, which is so based, man. It's so based to have all of you guys here. It's so based to be hanging out with dozens of 3,000 IQ Giga Chads who are handsome and pretty. It's so nice to hang out with you guys every single day. So a round of applause. Round of applause for the audience because they're so based.
Go out on a limb here and say that I don't think this user is actually worried about the language I'm using. I don't think that they're concerned about me being toxic masculinity-esque.
Make fun of people who are on SSRIs.
And I kind of don't think that they're worried about a call to violence. I actually think that they wouldn't mind me doing a call to violence.
Tell people to kill themselves.
They actually might even be encouraged by a call to violence, if I had to guess, you know. I can only speculate based on hashtag Dalaban, which is just some racist Twitter group. Ultimately concerned.
I wanted to point this out too because I do think it's funny. Racist Twitter group. This dude is like, he's just behind, man.
It's just some racist.
All right, hold on. Let's check in the comment and then I'll address what he just said. Literally dozens, indeed. And well endowed brings up Melody. That's another thing. So not only when you join the Grill Hottest, when you join the Counterpoints family, okay, not only does your IQ go up to 3,000, not only do you become incredibly insightful and rhetorically gifted and intelligent, but also you become more well endowed in whatever your secondary or primary sex organ of choice. So if you're a woman, you can pick whichever one you become more well endowed in. And if you're a male, obviously we know what's going to get more well endowed. So the truth is that there's no downsides. There's no downsides to being a part of this community, right? TS Phantom says, heard something that you're touring with Destiny. Is that right? I'm not touring with him. Although if he did say, hey, Connor, I'm going to pay your bills, come with me to all the debates across the country, I would do that. But on Saturday, we're actually figuring out the logistics right now. My wife just bought my train tickets a moment ago. I'm riding a train down to South Florida. I'm spending the night with my parents. Steven and I are going to go to the gun range. We're going to blow stuff up for a few hours. Then we're going to go back to Miami. We're going to do an AMA. Then we're going to hang out and get dinner. And then after dinner, we will, I'll ride a train. Train is not a euphemism. I'm being serious. There's something called the Bright Line. It's a real train. I'll be riding the train home. K-Soko says, thanks for recognizing my chatness. You're welcome. You're welcome. Wowman542 says, insert Obama awarding Obama medal meme here. True. That's me. Joe Vasquez says, racist Twitter group coming from Swastika Boy is rich. True. And then what is the Dalaban? The Dalaban is Destiny's, it's a sub-community of Destiny. So just to explain this real quick. Destiny is a liberal commentator, okay? He says edgy stuff. He's kind of like a gamer edgy boy, but he still believes in liberal principles like freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, redistributive economics, helping out minorities, helping out the gays and the transes and all that kind of stuff. But he does it in the edgiest way possible. And so he attracts a lot of young, edgy, intelligent, underemployed people who are a member of his Reddit and Discord community, DGG. And I think that the GG thing comes from good game from the gaming community, because Destiny originally was a semi-professional or professional StarCraft 2 player. And so DGG has its roots there. Well, the Dalaban is the most extreme part of the DGG that kind of volunteer to do gay ops with and without Destiny's, like him calling them to do it. And so DGG, the Dalaban are Destiny's most fervent fans. And just as an example of one of the things that they did, which I found funny, if a little cruel, was Dalaban attacks Hassan Piker's dog. Hasanabi Daga, no, that's not it. There was this thing that was so funny, and I don't know where the clip is, but there's some like public art where you can like draw stuff. And so what happens, it's on Reddit and it's like a live painting. I forget what it's called, but effectively you can change the colors of the pixels on the screen by like clicking them and selecting the picture. And so what communities do on that painting is they coordinate what pixels go where in order to make a painting. But because the community has to do it and it's a live painting, anything that you can do can be reversed by another member of the community. And so you effectively have to have thousands of people creating this painting in concert in order to dominate it. And so Hassan Piker's community drew Hassan Piker's old dog who died, unfortunately. And that's sad. And I love dogs. So on some reasons I empathize, or in some ways I empathize with Hassan. But what DGG did, the Dalaban did, is they attacked the live painting. They turned it into Destiny's symbol. They erased Hassan Piker's dog, and they launched it in waves where Destiny called out different birth months in order to have them go in waves in order to create the painting. And so Hassan live reacted to the painting of his dog being destroyed by the Dalaban. Destiny live reacted to that, laughing his ass off. And then somebody clipped it out to like a 2-minute short, and they set like Hezbollah style jihadist music to the background. And I don't want to say that that is like, that's not the birth of the Dalaban. The Dalaban was a thing long before that, but that was one of the Dalaban gay operations. Gay ops on the internet just means that you coordinate with people in order to do something silly. But it was one of the first Dalaban gay ops that I'm aware of that was pretty funny. So I don't know where the clip is, but it exists. So basically, some smart aleck from the Dalaban made one comment to iDubbbz and then spawned a 25-minute video. Oh, my ears are getting bigger. What the hell? Hopefully not. I am not underemployed. Well, good. Good, Gen X. I'm happy you're overemployed. Yeah, exactly. K911. I'm going to see if that pops up on... I'm going to see if that pops up as a short, because I could show you guys rather than describing it. I only described it because I would prefer to show it to you. Destiny K911. Up, is that it? Uh-oh. Okay, so that's an hour-long video. Is there a short? This might be it.
Oh my god, guys, you chill. What the?
Hassan was so mad.
April, May, June.
Hassan was so mad over this.
Hungry, maybe because you said Orban is bad. Whatever, I don't care. It's literally pixels, okay? It's pixels, and you did it. killed it.
Oh my god.
صارت بالعزم فتية طارت كالصقر أبية.
So anyways, they were very mean to Hassan Piker in a way that I find funny. I'm going to engage with chat because I understand that this might have been a little bit of a spicier thing before we move on to the end of the video. So I just want to check in with chat and do a room temp check. Drakeel says, really? I thought it was because the internet address IDGG for the HTTP address. No, I could be effed up on that. Yes, but I think that they picked the HTTP address based off of GG being a good game, common thing said in the gaming community. Kesoko says, employment has nothing to do with being a Destiny fan. Listen, man, there's plenty of well-employed and overemployed people. But if you think you're not underemployed, you know, if you don't think there's broad swaths of Destiny's communities that are underemployed. And by the way, I should be clear about what I mean by underemployed. What I mean by underemployed is that these people are super smart, but they're working dog shit jobs. Like there's some, like, I guarantee you there's thousands of Destiny fans who have like Rain Man style autism where they're like super geniuses who can count like 700 matchsticks on the floor instantaneously, but they work as stock clerks at a local grocer. That's what I mean by underemployed. K911. Yep, there we go. Gen X says, I know it was joke. K911, Reddit spaces, r/pace. It was so good. God, I got so many DGGers in here. GRT says, unironically, one of the best R-Place events of all time. iDubbbz, the Pixel Wars. Yeah, so lots of people remember this. You had to be there for it. Well, I mean, you don't have to be there for it. It's still pretty funny in retrospect. Pelican says, oh, Connor, that was not the first. I'm sure. I'm just not a DGG lore head. BizD says, I'm a Victorian child, and that was the last I heard before I died. Goodbye. I want to time travel and explain this to somebody born in the 19th century. Dr. Zaya says, Nasheed. Yeah. Sacred Snow says, I'm just the right amount of employed. Excellent. Dalaban, inshallah. BizD says, I forgot about the terrorist music. Yeah, exactly. Inshallah, peace be upon his name. Funky Mix, lurk in chat. Okay, you got now I just have a bunch of DGG terrorists in my chat now. Line of Extra says, am I late to seeing you go over Destiny's venture into a TikTok panel? Nope, we're still going to do that in a bit. Pelican says, fully employed DGG are here working from home on critical medical infrastructure. Okay. Sacred Snow says, you got to load the Malding clip after. No. We're done. You know, that was enough. Okay. We gave DGG their props. I don't want the entire Dalaban to come into my chat. Okay. I mean, they're welcome, but you know, I don't want to, I do want to be my own culturally independent thing while still maybe having some crossover with the Dalaban. So yeah, Dalaban Grill Holidas. Yeah, Grill Holidas could be a subcomponent of the Dalaban. That's okay. So anyways, let's wrap up the video. But in summary, because we've reached the climax of this video, iDubbbz screwed up a boxing event. He imploded a multi-million-dollar charity event. Then he goes on to explain concern trolling. Then it looks like a member of the Dalaban infiltrated his Discord and triggered him into creating this video. And then now we've gotten to relive the fact that Destiny has a very passionate community with a subset of digital terrorists who like to bomb pixels on screen in order to make fun of Hassan Piker, which is funny. All right. Anyways, let's continue.
Twitter group. Ultimately, concern trolling is just saying something in bad faith. It's very similar to tone policing or sea lioning. But I didn't really want to talk about those because those feel different to me for some reason. Specifically, sea lioning. That shit isn't even intuitive.
Is a type of trolling and harassment that consists of pursuing people with relentless requests for evidence, often tangential or previously addressed, while maintaining a pretense of civility and sincerity and feigning ignorance of the subject matter. Yeah, I didn't think that that's what sea lining was. I was listening to this video earlier, and I thought sea lining was where you just like endlessly praise somebody, where you just like you just clapped for them endlessly. That's what I thought sea lining was, in order to encourage them to engage in more and more cringe behavior. That's what I thought it was.
You know, I've looked it up, I think 3 times now, and I still don't fucking, I mean, I get it, I just can't recall it easily. So in my mind, that means it's stupid. It's not working. I can't bust it out in the middle of a heated argument and say, you're sea lining me. See, it's because you grew whiskers in the middle of this debate. That means you're sea lining me. You started flapping your arms and going, oh, oh, oh. Therefore, you're sea lining. I mean, there you go. It feels like 2 people getting into a shouting match is more an accurate descriptor of sea lining than whatever the fuck it is. I think the least problematic part of being a concern troll is them taking a moderate position, potentially. Because at that point, you're just being a party pooper or like a killjoy, a buzzkill. Like, we're familiar with these types of people. They're just constantly reeling people in because they're worried that they're using, like, too crazy a rhetoric or they're getting a little too excited, right? And I think we all could use people in our lives to, like, reel us in a bit. The aspect of concern trolling that bothers me the most is the role-playing aspect. There isn't really a lot of incentive to not be anonymous online. There are some people...
Harmonic Fox has got to go to work. Have a great day, chat. Well, thank you for hanging out again, Harmonic Fox. We do appreciate you. Mega Zero says, anyone else catch the coach trauma dump yesterday on H3? Yeah, Mega Zero, my takeaways from that were that Idubbz didn't treat his coach appropriately. And then here's another embarrassing thing about it. Is so Idubbz was doing training so he could participate in the Creator Clash boxing events, right? And apparently with his coach was chastising him for whatever in order to get him to train. And Idubbz actually confided in the coach, which might be too private, but I also think it's funny, that he reminded him too much of his verbally abusive father. And so he needed to phrase the way that he coached Ian differently so he didn't trigger his childhood trauma. And it's like, bruh, like, you know, you always talk about going to therapy. How about you do whatever you need to do at therapy to the point that somebody trying to coach you while you're boxing isn't triggering your childhood trauma? How about you figure out that behavior before you do anything else? But also, Anissa Joma had a crush on one of Idubbz's sparring partners. And then also Idubbz and Anissa Joma treated the people who trained him for the fight like crap. So, yeah. Did Mike from PA strike again? Not recently. Yeah, coach, not couch. Yeah. Yeah. I have never heard of jacking. Good to know. You explain something I chat with. Yeah. Just asking questions over and over again. Absolutely. Pelican says, is Ian just admitting he doesn't know how to read? The description of sea lining is really not that hard to understand. Yeah, but even right now, we read it, like a second ago, and it was just jacking, right? JAQing. But for me, like sea lining means something else. It basically means just showering somebody with praise. And you could probably use showering somebody with praise in order to get them to do a cringe thing. So, I mean, I would use it differently, effectively. Anyways.
Out there who've made the unconscious choice to be like, my online profile is just an extension of who I am in the real world. And then there are all the people who consciously decide to stay anonymous. Now, for some of these people, it's just like, I want to be safe and I really don't want to take that plunge. Fair enough. But then there are the people who are like, not only am I not going to be myself, I'm going to be someone else. You know, I'm going to be someone else so that I could fuck with this community of people. Now, every time I see these characters, the image that pops in my mind is not like, oh, like you're a clever, smart guy who has infiltrated the opposing faction. You're like the spy in Team Fortress 2. It's like, no, that is a fantasy. What you actually are is you're like Steven Crowder in a wig at a women's only event, thinking that they're making some kind of grand point.
Hi, I'm Stephanie with all the frequencies of feminism, and I am here at the Women's March in Austin.
We quickly found out that nobody questions, criticizes, nor runs security background checks on trannies.
Hands up our pussies!
The reason someone like Steven Crowder gets into this position is not because of his cunning. It's because people are like, oh, you're a fucking weirdo freak. I'm staying, 20 feet away from you at all times. or I'm going to be a very non-judgmental person, and I'm not going to ask any questions about whatever you got going on here.
We could get away with anything, go anywhere, act any way we wanted, and we were really able to learn what today's progressive issues are all about.
And I guess in this case, it's a massive own. He's proven that people are tolerant of him. Having said that, I think we can end this video on a positive note.
Bo Dickerson says, isn't that Crowder bit like a decade ago? Yeah, Bo Dickerson. And Melody says, that's your guy, Connor. Dude, I hate Steven so much. So I tried to watch Steven Crowder because I figured that he was probably the kind of conservatarian that, you know, I would typically align with before he started simping for Trump. And so I tried to consume some of his content. But the one that just drove me crazy, he went to like a Home Depot and there were like 40 and 50-year-old day laborers, and him and I think Not Gay Jared jumped out pretending to be immigrations and made them run away and basically have a heart attack. And I was just thinking to myself, it's like, is that funny? Maybe, but at the same time, like, it's actually kind of gross. Like, these guys immigrated here in order to work their asses off. They're waiting to bust their ass for $10, $10 an hour in order to go roofing or construction or whatever. And then you're basically making them think that they're on the verge of getting kicked out of the country. That was like actually so cringe and cruel that I was like, fuck this guy. I never want to watch him again. Bo Dickerson says, isn't that Crowder bit a decade ago? Yeah, but like Ian only learned empathy within the past 2 years. And so as a result, he has to look back at all of his previous created content and all of the social media circles that he was swimming in. And he has to go back and like flex his progressive bona fides. Kingslayer says, not going to lie, that Crowder video was hilarious. Well, there you go. Different opinions and humor. I right there. AF says, over here, Gooner. Come on, guys. You guys are overusing jacking for sure. Eric Summons says, Dan Connor, 200K like tweet from yesterday. Yeah, and it was absolutely nothing too. It's not even one of my best tweets. It was me just asking how much does American, construction labor cost? And everybody was like, you hate white people. And I'm like, not really. Not really. Light of Extra says, I think Crowder is unironically actually racist. Anyone remember Hennessy Tree? No, I don't, but he does say some crazy shit. So, anyways. Bona fides. Yeah.
No, I'm proposing that fucking...
Yes. Wowman542 says something very pertinent. Isn't Ian just a peak example of internet trolls' remorse? Yes.
With people might be a way for some of these concern trolls to indulge in things and lifestyles that they never thought were possible because they're so opposed to them. So by pretending to be the very thing that you hate, you might actually gain some sympathy, or you might be like, oh, actually, the people in this community I kind of fuck with. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of iDubbbz Complains. I hope...
All right. So in summary, iDubbbz imploded a multi-million-dollar charity event. Then he figured out what concern trolling was. And then it was revealed that the reason why he figured out what concern trolling was because a Dalaban DGGer went into his Discord and concern trolled him about him threatening violence to Ethan Klein. Then it turns out that Destiny is a bad guy because he says, own your business, which I actually think is pretty funny and pretty Chad. And then I'm trying to think of what else we discovered. Right-wing trolls are bad sometimes because they weaponize empathy and concern trolling in order to mess with lefties. I guess that's what we were supposed to learn today. So, good for you, Ian. I'm happy that you're doing more essays that I can watch and enjoy, but I do think it's actually quite funny that a random DGGer got you so triggered that you made a 24-minute video out of it. Good for you, King. Good for you. So anyways, they were very mean to Hassan Piker in a way that I find funny.